What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 131, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by my two good friends and co-hosts, Roffle and Corbett. Guys, how you doing tonight?
You know, I'm doing all right. A little bit overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that we have to cover, despite the fact that, like, just last week we thought was going to be our last big episode, but then Reverts happened, so we've got even more to talk about this week.
There's a lot going on. It's kind of like we get our mini sort of teaser of the expansion that happens. So I don't know. It's kind of like we're gonna have two big different conversations. We got Revert talk. And we also got an expansion launching in. I mean, by the time you guys listen to this, it'll probably be like 24 hours, 48 hours or something. So yeah.
Yeah. We thought we were done with the long episodes for the preview season, like Ruffle said. And then we looked at all the stuff we wanted to talk about today. And guys, strap in. It'll be a long one, but it'll be a fun one. Let's go ahead and start off with kind of the first big thing that's exclusive to Wild. We got Reversions announced, and they've been live, by the time we're recording this, for about 5 days. We've got to experience them. Some of them, stuff we expected, some of them a little bit out of left field. Some of them we were hoping they weren't going to revert, and they ended up doing it anyways. So we'll just run through these by class order. Let's start with like the Demon Hunter quest. This is one that we kind of knew that was going to get reverted back to 4 cards to discount instead of 6, just because they wanted to kill the deck in standard for the short period of time. I think it's just like as viable as it was, back when they initially nerfed it. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. I am interested to see, though, like now that this is no longer in standard, if they'll like give us some more draw options for Demon Hunter that potentially make this easier to complete.
I don't think Demon Hunter is hurting for draw options, is it? Like, I think that one of the big things it's missing right now is like a big payoff from this. Il'gynoth is a little slow. Brutes are a little too inconsistent as they currently stand. So, like, without a big payoff to work towards, I think that's the limiting factor right now. Like, Demon Hunter has great draw.
There's actually been like a hybrid, like Brute and Walloper Demon Hunter that I've been seeing a fair amount of. So there's a couple cards in the new upcoming expansion as well that kind of pair well with that. The Rush the Stage is kind of like a nice way to draw cards and also like, do the thing with the Rush minions, the big boys. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably not as good as like pure Outcast, but it's actually been more competitive than I thought or expected.
I am interested to see though if it'll actually like take off, because the mana discount, is it the best thing that Demon Hunter could be doing with all that card draw is kind of the question that's going to come down to it. Do you play this in your Outcast Demon Hunter deck now that it's back to 4?
Well, no, you like not the pure version, but if you are doing like the hybrid thing with Brutes, then
yeah,
maybe
it's an option.
I think the one thing about this is like the final stage and the playing the Curtis is like the worst stage, right? Because you never want to play a 5-mana 7/7 in a lot of the decks that you want to run this card in. So it's just like you're just doing it for the first 2 stages, and I don't know. People tend not to like that, even if no matter how effective it is,
It is funny though in that deck where, because you are only playing like Brute Walloper's philosophies, it's like the 7/7 is legitimately one of your few threats. So like that's the only upside. Like you don't even care about the reward, like the actual battle cry as much. It's pretty funny.
All right. The other Demon Hunter card that got reverted here was Carry of Felsel. Another thing that we kind of expected was going to happen. Went back from a 7-mana 7/7 to a 6-mana 6/6. Transform into a copy of a demon in your deck. This is like your 6-mana Barnes for your big demon decks in Demon Hunter. And it's not very good, but it is like if you're going to play big Demon Hunter, like you needed this back to 6, even if it's not good enough.
I say it is the opposite. I say it is just like top end for aggro. Like you just play it with Zillag. Like in an actual like big DH deck, I'm just like, nah.
Yeah. I think when she was at her best is when she was just a turn earlier Zillag, or a second copy of Zillag. Because I've played her both at 6 and 7 mana in Big Demon Hunter. And turn 6 is too slow if you're planning to get your big stuff online. And the real like weak point for Big Demon Hunter is how fragile it is. You lose one board, you lose the game.
Yeah. All right. So if there is an aggro Demon Hunter deck, carry into Zillag, probably something you want to look at. All right, the one Druid card that got reverted, thank God they didn't revert alignment. Razormane Battle Guard, back to a 2/3. instead of a 2/2. The first taunt minion you play each turn costs 2 less. I mean, Aggro Druid, I think we've kind of moved on from this point, but it gives Aggro Druid like another avenue to play, which is interesting, but I think we have kind of moved past the point where this little tempo swing is maybe as strong as we wished it was, where it was once upon a time.
Yeah, I mean, Aggro Druid needs a little bit more to be competitive than just an additional stat on this card. This card is good. The problem is like the deck isn't great. There might be a place for it if we, continue towards hyper aggressive metagame, like throwing up a few low cost taunts or repeated low cost taunts into Pirate Rogue is pretty difficult for them to deal with if they don't have a cannon. So meta depending, maybe it could see a resurgence, but I don't think it'll be exclusively because of the revert. I think it's just a meta call, and that's
Meowth. How quickly you forget that we just theorycrafted with this card an Even Druid. So come on, Even Druid now.
My build of Even Druid is different than your build of Even Druid because you're not a believer in the Wicker Flame or the Wicker Claw or whatever it's called.
Oh my god. Okay, as somebody who's played Even Druid, you need to believe in the Wicker Claw. That card absolutely hard carries that deck.
Corb, told you.
It's like I put it in as a meme, and I'm just like I just need to draw this card every single game if I want to win. My win rate was dependent on whether or not I drew it. I mean that completely sincerely.
All right, somebody warned him. That's all I'm gonna say. Now I think it's good, right? I just don't think it's good enough to carry an archetype like it was when it originally came out. And that's kind of what I meant by like the meta's kind of just passed it by, or the format's kind of just passed it by at this point, which is a little bit sad to see. All right, moving into Hunter, Kolkar Packrunner back to 2 mana after you cast a spell summon a 1/1 Hyena with Rush. I know people have been talking about kind of like an aggro face Hunter with stuff like not barrel of monkeys, bunch of bananas. That's the other one, right? And you get the Nagas and Aerosmith and things like that. Kolkar Packrunner probably fits into that shell pretty nicely. Corb, I know you've been playing a little bit with a Kolkar deck. Has it seemed good?
I think Kolkar is a card that we really want to be good, but it's not very good. Like I think the format. I mean, you just said the words. The format like moved past, the taunt stuff in Druid. I think Kolkar Packrunner is, been pushed out a little bit by this point.
Yeah, that's kind of my fear as well. Like it's always the card that we kind of root for to be good. It pairs well with that like fetch a 1 mana spell card and that kind of thing. And I feel like people in our format pretty consistently underrate like Face Hunter and aggressive low curve like Reno Hunters. Those decks can perform well a lot of the time, and I think people sleep on them. But Kolkar might just be bait in those decks, even in spite of that. Like it's a card that I know the three of us, have always like wished to be good, but doesn't always quite get there.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to stick a 2 mana 2/3 in 2023 than it was like previously.
Man. I feel like it's going to be a common theme, and it makes me a little bit sad. All these cards that I really liked when they originally came out, just not good enough nowadays.
Can't stop progress, Meowth. All right, time ticks on always.
Not if I have anything to say about it. I will continue to play my bad decks. Quest Hunter will not be one of them, even though we got 2 mana Dragonbane shot back. We got this reverted instead of the quest, which I think was what we were kind of all rooting for. That being said, have any of you guys played Quest Hunter?
I'll have you know, I was rooting for neither, and that was just my opinion. That said, if I had the choice, yeah, absolutely, I would take the Dragonbane shot over the quest line. It's a little bit less concerning with the like Conjured Arrow plus Furious Howl kind of like means that it's a lot less starved for cards than it used to be. So like. That's where Dragonbane shot seemed to excel, is when like it desperately needed cards. That said, I don't care. I don't want the deck to be good again. I don't like it doesn't need to be good again. Nobody likes playing against it.
Yep. If I had to pick, it was this one. Like I didn't really care that much either way. Like I preferred they not touch the quest line, but with this one, I was kind of like, yeah. I don't think it matters. Like I don't think quest line Hunter's coming back anytime soon anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I think when this got nerfed, it was a huge deal because Quest Hunter needed it so badly. And then now that we have like the Conjured Era Furious out, I think it's like less reliant on Dragon Main Shot, kind of like what Roffle was saying. That being said, like Quest Hunter didn't need this as badly. But that being said, like I don't think Quest Hunter is gonna all of a sudden be like a meta dominant force now that Dragon Main Shot's back at 2. So yeah. All right. Another quest line, the Mage quest line, Sorcerer's Gambit, the final stage. Now it gives you +3 spell damage again instead of 2. Again, this never really saw play at all in Wild outside of like the very casual player base who were basically playing like standard versions of the deck. Does it going back to 3 make it something that you guys are interested in our format, or not really? You got other mage combos on your mind?
No. I tried playing it. Like, if it wasn't good, you know, when it was released, I don't think that a faster metagame is going to allow for like this type of deck to function.
I feel like I will almost certainly play this at some point, just to like, just out of boredom. Like,
of course I will.
Yeah,
like I like eventually I'm gonna run out of ideas and be like, well, let's make a questline deck. I don't know. The deck builds itself for me. I don't have to think. And so like, yeah, I will play it. It would, like, nobody else will though.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a sad one. I am actually just like legitimately a little bit nostalgic for this deck though. Even when they broke it back, I'm still kind of a little bit, you know, all these cards from 2 years ago, you kind of forget how traumatic they were at the time sometimes.
I don't know if traumatic's the right word. Like
well, I was playing standard. Like it wasn't.
Well, that was your mistake. That's not our fault. Yeah. Okay, maybe traumatic is the right word because you were playing standard. Yeah. But I don't know. I have very fond memories of a lot of these cards, except for Dragon Main Shot and Questline Hunter. All right. What is this? Magister Dawngrasp, the hero card for Mage. Its hero power had been buffed to 2 and then nerfed back to 1 after they realized it was too strong. Now that it rotated, they rebuffed it / reverted it back to +2. That was a really, really complicated way of saying when you honorably kill things, it gains +2 damage instead of +1. I think a lot of Reno Mage decks had kind of shifted towards a very low anti-aggro curve where like this is kind of your top-end finisher from what I remember. Playing like Wildfire and things like that. Now that it's back to 2, I think we're going back to that kind of Reno Mage deck. I don't know how good it's going to be kind of in other decks. Like, is this coming back, meaning we're just shoving it as like a top end in a lot of your... I don't even... Are there other slower Mage decks that are not Combo or Reno?
Like Hero Power, but...
Yeah,
like,
I was going to say Hero Power, but that's not a real deck. So.
No. It tries to be though, and then like this, people will play it. Like, quite honestly,
is there
like,
ever a point where you can play this in Secret Mage?
I was gonna bring it up, but I didn't want to sound really
actually
dumb.
Go ahead and give people that idea. You know what? Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
You shove this in every. People have done it. I've seen it. It's never appeared good to me.
I know people used to play it in Quest Mage, so
you get. You get what? Explosive Runes counterspell back as your only secrets? Maybe the Ancient Mysteries?
Yeah. Like, I guess you'd need like another fourth, like a fourth secret, like a shadow secret or something.
Yeah, because you also get, I guess, Oasis Ally.
Or block.
I know. Really wanting to run block in that even just to justify a Dawngrasp, are you?
I think like right now the current card pool wouldn't call for it, but there's definitely a world right in the future where you play this on 7, you get 5 secrets back, and it's like legitimately very strong. Yeah. So like that could happen, but it's probably not right now.
So right. What are we missing? A shadow spell? And
like shadow, and then like maybe they just dip into something else at some point, like get a secret from a sketchy stranger, like get a secret from another class, like stuff like that. But
I mean, you already have that, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, you could
cards like that, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, well, I guess the like small percentage of people out there that are still playing Renathal Secret Mage, and I see you guys out there because I queue into you. You guys are playing Sketchy Stranger. If you're doing that, maybe you're playing this in your deck too. All right, so
I would
deck can actually win games.
Yeah, that's maybe
Look, I just know that because I've queued into multiple of them this week. All right, and so I'm
just gonna throw it out there. I've also seen in the past people run Mask of Cthulhu and Dawngrasp in their Secret Mage. So sure, please do that against me if you're going to queue Secret Mage.
All right. All right. Let's move on to the first spicy revert of the year, and that is Conviction. This was one, including me, did not want to see happen. And here we are. Conviction back to 1 mana Fireball. Aggro Paladin, Odd Paladin, hand buff. Every Paladin deck, rejoice. You got your 1 mana Fireball back.
No, I won't. I think Aggro Paladin probably is a more realistic place for this than Odd Paladin because like that was a closer deck than Odd Paladin was. But either way, like why? Who asked for 1 mana Fireballs to return? Especially when like we just got Crab Rider back. we don't need those to exist together again. We've lived that life.
Yeah, as for like who asked and things like that, like I kind of want to get through all of them and then we can kind of summarize the general direction that they obviously took with the reverts and stuff. Because I think like once you look at what they did, it sort of makes sense, big picture. But as for Conviction itself, it's a big deal. Like, oh my god, I've been playing Hand Buff Paladin. Like, Hand Buff Paladin feels really legit now. I was playing some Odd Pally on day 1 of the reverts, and I went like 9-2 or something. Had a really good time with it. I don't expect Odd Paladin to be super insane, but man, it is a big deal. Like, god, this is so much damage. Like, it's crazy. So it's just as good as we remembered.
Yeah. I wanted to be known that I had changed my stance. I was no longer a Conviction defender. I was a little bit surprised to see this, a little bit scared. But that being said, like I am happy that like Hand of Paladin is back. I'm happy that Aggro Paladin is better. I'm just not happy that it's off the back of this card, right?
Look, it's actually so funny when playing Hammer Paladin. It's like the opponent leaves up a minion like once from turn 5 onwards, they just like die. It's all of a sudden 12 damage plus like an Argent Horse Rider for 5.
And that's like every Paladin deck from now on, right? Like you kind of die if you leave up a minion.
Things up, dead. Yeah.
I would like to compliment you on your personal growth, Meowth. I'm proud of you.
I have changed a lot in the last year. All right. Let's talk about it with the next card here that got reverted, and that is Level Up. So, I mean, kind of talk about this kind of on 2 angles. This wasn't a card that was reverting this year. This was a card that had been Wild exclusive.
Old.
It's an
Super
old card, but they went back and changed it from 6 mana to 5. So this was kind of the first time that we had seen them revisit wild cards when looking at reversions. Which is a little bit annoying for all those reversion videos that we make because, God, I don't want to go back and look at all the other wild years. But, so, I mean, it was a first that they did this, but this also went from 6 mana to 5. Odd Paladin, right? So, Odd Paladin players got Level Up and Conviction. I don't know, Corby, you said you were playing Odd Paladin. I've heard rumblings that people are like, I don't even know if you run Level Up in those decks, and that was a little bit wild to me. But, I mean, they've actually been playing the deck. I don't know. What are your opinions?
It's not great. Like, it's not the strongest card, but just having any ability to leverage the dudes is also important. Because you need those to be, like, constant threats, like, the wider you go. Because otherwise, it's kind of, like, just Warhorse and Quartermaster. Well, I guess Conviction now is also, like, pretty big leverage. But, yeah, it's fine. Like, I think it's a playable card. You can always afford to kind of carry dead cards in a hero power deck because you just keep hitting the button, so it's fine. So it'll probably be among the weaker cards in the deck, but I think it's fine. You know, like you don't have to hit that many minions for it to be worth it.
Yeah, having not played the deck, and really just basing it kind of off of a memory of how a Level Up was in the past, like it's a step below Quartermaster, obviously, because it doesn't develop a body. Warhorse Trainer got overbuffed, so like you're not as reliant on just your 5 mana stuff anymore. But that said, like the deck excels when it can turn its hero power into a turn after turn threat, and that's what this allows it to do. So you just run it because it does the thing that the deck does. Probably one of the weaker like payoffs for the deck, but like the redundancy with Quartermaster and Warhorse Trainer is probably just mandatory.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, those were indeed some Paladin changes, a little bit wild. Let's move on to Rogue. The first one, another old one, and that is Coldblood. Finally coming back to 1 mana. So Paladin got 1 mana Fireball. Rogue gets 1 mana Deal 4. Is this a card that we're just shoving in Pirate Rogues now? and calling it a day, or you know, is this good enough that we just bring out other rogue decks? Right, there were like combo decks that involved around Cold Blood, with like deckhand stuff, or is this purely just a Pirate Rogue card, or do we even play it in Pirate Rogue?
It's tough to say. Like, if you're running Door Shadows, you do kind of want to run a few number of spells just for the consistency. That said, 4 damage for 1 mana is a lot. Like, and you have the deckhands in your Pirate Rogue. So I don't know. I'm no expert on Pirate Rogue, but it's like giving your weapon Wind Fury for a turn, isn't it? Like, it seems pretty good, and kind of spooky. Like, I see a lot of people running some pretty questionable cards in Pirate Rogue already, so like maybe swap those out and like shove these in and you're good. I don't know how to build the deck. I don't play it. I just get annoyed by playing it or playing against it rather. So I don't care. Do what you want with the deck. Like, you're gonna win games anyway, just on the back of the weapon.
Yeah, I don't know if you play it. Like, it's very efficient, but it is also just another non-pirate. And it can be a bit awkward. Like, I don't know. There are a lot of games I found where it's sort of stuck in my hand, or I couldn't play it before I wanted to play Passage or something. Like without the combo activator. So I don't know. Whether it's in Pirate Rogue or not, it's still like a very, very powerful aggro tool in general. So there'll be something in the future, at minimum. It might just be Pirate Rogue. Like, I just don't know. So
yeah, I don't think with the limited amount of time that it's been at 1 mana, like, there's just no way that we can say for sure whether or not it belongs in there. Like, it's probably a borderline card either way.
Yeah, 1 mana deal for though. Something definitely to keep an eye on. All right, the next rogue revert, we have Garrote. Corb, you asked for this one. Reverted back to shuffling 3 bleeds. Yeah, everybody asked for this one if they were a rogue enjoyer from the standard of 2 years ago. Is this a wild deck now? Is this a wild deck?
I don't know. We didn't get the other one that we really needed for the Garrote Rogue, but we'll see.
Well, spoiler
I'm
alert,
excited about this one.
The rogue cards. Come on.
Yeah, no spoilers. But like, I think this one was pretty straightforward. Like, Garrote made very little impact the first time it was in Wild compared to Standard, so it's fine. Like, yeah.
I think, like, with Record Scratcher coming in the next expansion, maybe the Octobot was a little bit less necessary, just because you can get really big pop-off turns with Record Scratcher into Field Contact Go. Like, that seems like you're able to cheat more mana than an Octobot potentially. So, like, I think that's what the deck's going to be reliant on. That said, I don't know, is that better than Mind Rogue right now? Like, if you're gonna combo in Rogue, like, you've got some options already.
Yeah, I selfishly wanted the Octo. I don't know if it would have been a healthy thing for the entire format, but that's never stopped me before.
Okay, personal growth on your side too. Look at you recognizing that. All right, Evil Miscreant. This is another one of those really, really old cards that have been rotated for a long time that they revisited. Finally, back to a 1/5. They could have, when they initially rotated this card and made it a 1/5, it would not have mattered because we had moved on past this card. We are moving past this card in our review. Forsaken Lieutenant, back to 2 mana. This is the 2/2 with stealth that when you played a Death Rattle minion, it would turn into a copy of it. It got nuked in Standard because they wanted to try to delete Mind Rogue. This was never really a core card of Mind Rogue, I think, in Wild. And so they're kind of bringing it back to maybe to help some Death Rattle shenanigans. Because now with the new Mind Rogue in Wild, I don't think this is going to see play anyways. But yeah.
I don't love that they brought this back. Because even if it's not good right now, I am like, I don't love this being in a Rogue's toolkit for the future, but hopefully it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it, so please don't clip this and remind me of it down the line if it breaks. Like, it does have the potential to cheat some mana, but like, again, without it, Mind Rogue is already winning games on turn 4 or 5 without any real interaction. So it's like, could it get worse? Yeah, maybe. Like,
it can always get worse, Roffle.
It can always get worse. When we play Wild, it can always get worse.
It's the expectation that it will at one point. Um, surely WoW players would just like abuse fair death battles like Jade's or Nerubian Egg with this, right? Like they would never try to break it. And
Is the card called Unearthed Raptor? Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, Unearthed Raptor. Yeah, there we go.
Good old Jade Rogue stuff. Yeah, I think Rogue got a pretty good set though, except for the evil miscreant. Some sweet reverse, even if they didn't get Octobot. All right, Shaman. The quest line got reverted. The last stage, you only need to play 2 spells instead of 3. However, spoiler alert, we didn't get Drekthar back, so therefore Frog Shaman is kind of irrelevant. Questline Shaman's kind of irrelevant since we didn't get Drekthar back. I don't think this quest saw any play outside of Drekthar Frog Shaman. I don't think it will see play, even though it's not reverted. So,
I mean, I'm gonna play it. I like what's the charge call? I love that card, so you can't stop me from playing it. And like we did get some new overload shenanigans, so like I'm glad that they did, just because first of all, like you said, it's not terribly competitive without a Drekthar into frogs. And then on top of that, like it gives people a reason to try out the new cards, maybe. So I think it's a good revert in spite of all that. Like it doesn't need to be a super viable deck in order to justify the revert, in my opinion.
All right, the other Shaman card here is Granite Forgeborn. This was the elemental that makes the cost of elementals in your hand and deck decreased by 1. It went to a 4/5. That's going to make elementals totally, absolutely playable.
I can't believe they made this change. What were they thinking?
You mean that about our next card, right? Not this one.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Got ahead of yourself there, Corb. Let's talk about our next one. Let's talk about Dark Pact, guys. This used to heal 8. They nerfed it to healing 4, and then all of a sudden, in this reversion patch notes, for some reason, they were like, Warlock needs more healing. We're back to 1 mana heal 8. I don't understand this one. You guys want to try to break it down and get in the minds of Blizzard? What was going on? Why did we need 1 mana heal 8 back?
I have no idea. The only rationale I can think is that like this is what applies to several of these, is that they're like looking ahead to something that we don't see yet. Like because like some of these are just so like far out there, out of nowhere. That's just like, here's a card. It's and like, you know, the miscreant, was the Cold Blood, even the level up. It's like they're clearly looking at something, but we can't see it, or they're just trying to like shove like supposedly nostalgic cards and decks into the wild format. That, I mean, Dark Pact isn't gonna make Possessed Lackey playable again, but it might like do something else in Warlock, you know?
I mean, a lot of these cards missed their initial window because they had a different philosophy. Like they hadn't done reverts up until the first time when they did what was it, Spellstone, Raza, Spiteful, and there was like one other card or something that happened at the time. And so all these cards sort of just missed out, like especially ones that, you know, like that they aren't gonna be looking at bringing back to the core set and things like that. So I mean, I think it's still nostalgia. It's just like looking at this and saying, is this gonna break the format? And then like, no. It's like, okay, well, nostalgia. I like playing Dark Pact and Cube Block. Let's bring it back. Why not?
It's kind of a dangerous one though. I feel like it's a 1 mana heal.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying though. I get what you're saying. I feel like this one was kind of, it's up there with Conviction, or it's just like, this was very surprising to me. It feels like it's very easy to abuse.
I get what Corb's saying too, and I understand that that's the perspective that they're coming from, but like, again, they're still just, it seems like they're just pulling cards out of a hat that were popular and saying like this one, and this one, and then kind of, you know, the Rush Evolve guy like gets left behind, and that kind of like, there's a lot of cards that are in that same boat but get left behind.
Yeah, I get what both of you guys are saying. And as weird as it is, let's put that aside. How impactful do we think this is in current day Wild? Like, how busted is the 1 mana heal 8 in today's Wild?
I mean, I haven't tried it. My intuition is, I mean, not very, but like just because of the other powerful healing that Warlock has available. But Like I said, I haven't tried it, and I haven't tried it in the context of another card that got reverted, which shall not be named.
A lot of healing. It's a lot. Probably a little bit overrated, to be honest. Like from what you first look at it and the gut reaction, like it's probably not as strong as you'd think. But it's a lot of healing. Like,
Yeah, I mean that was my assumption as well, but I feel like maybe I'm underestimating it. So maybe it's somewhere between my expectations and everyone else's.
Yeah, I wonder if you're just like shoving this in like every slow deck. Like your Reno Lock deck, probably playing Dark Pact. Like pain, well, because like you, if you go the like one drop heavy route, play Plague of Flames, and you get to play Dark Pact, and then you just get to heal 8. And,
yeah, if you're a Plague of Flames deck, you're probably a Dark Pact deck. I think that's just like how you think about it.
yeah, and those are 2 powerful cards. So I think you should be a Plague of Flames Dark Pact deck. All right. Raffle alluded to this. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the Demon Seed. The Demon Seed is no longer banned in Wild. But now to complete your quest, you have to take 10 damage for each of the 3 phases. You have to take 30 damage in order to complete this quest. That is a lot of damage. Even with all the healing we have in our format, that is still 30 damage that you have to deal to yourself. I know this has been a very popular deck on ladder as people kind of flocking back to it, see if it's busted. I played a little bit of it. Corb, I know you've been playing a ton of it. What are your gut reactions to the Demon Seed and its power level now?
I was very impressed with it for the first 24 hours, like 12 hours. And now I'm no longer impressed. I think like there's definitely like question marks about, you know, like are we playing the right build? Like, you know, it's kind of like a new direction that we have to take. It's so much self damage. But kind of like it's definitely better than I expected. Like I'll say that much. It's better than I thought it was gonna be. That does not mean it's good. Like from what I've seen so far. So my general hesitation about it was always like, look, you're gonna probably lose to aggro, you're gonna lose to combo. That's still like very true. I think I did forget just like being 100-0 against Reno Priest is kind of like a good thing. Like you do run into jank and slow decks in the format, and being dominant over them rather than just like favorable is very important. But yeah, like my stance generally hasn't changed. Like you still lose to the stuff that I thought it was going to lose to. I think that it's a deck that's going to probably perform pretty well at like Diamond through Legend. Like it does look very competitive because you aren't seeing such ruthless, you know, like top tier decks. And so like, you're seeing a lot fewer combo decks that tend to line up really well against this. And so yeah, it is like a jank killer, and being a jank killer has value in the same way that like Big Priest, right? Like Big Priest is another deck that does a lot better typically at Diamond through Legend, which falls off a top Legend. And so I think it's kind of a similar story where I think this deck probably going to be like borderline tier 4 right now at like top ranks, but I can see it being tier 2, tier 3, like competitive. It's still going to lose to like Pirate Rogue and stuff, but it's going to beat up on jank. So yeah, better than I thought. Still not stellar, but you know, maybe like pretty good at certain rank brackets in particular.
Yeah, that was kind of my assumption as well. And because a lot of the player base does spend time in those like sub-legend ranks, I think it's going to draw a lot of ire from the community. Looking at like early stats across all ranks right now, it has a pretty similar play rate and pretty similar win rate as Defend the Dwarven District, which was kind of what my expectation was, is that it's like it's going to be very similar in regard to the Defend the Dwarven District, not just because of like low quest line, but like the its capacity to sort of put a cap on turn length and like end the game after a certain period, if not like rushed down by aggressive decks. So it's going to be really frustrating for people that want to play slower control style matchups. It's going to be maybe free wins for, you know, the abundance of aggro that we're seeing. And to be honest, I've been seeing a lot less aggro in those rank bans right now because people are trying out the new cards. So like this is even though it's unrefined, this is probably close to about the peak of the deck success as it just kind of like feeds on jank. It'll probably do the same thing come like immediately following the expansion release. It's going to be like terrorizing unrefined new expansion decks. When people start going back to just shoving even Shaman and Pirate Rogue and Secret Mage all day, it might run into a bit more difficulty. And then, now that said, I don't think either deck and the like sort of inherent cap that it puts on game length is necessarily a good thing, right? Like I don't think that just by nature of running a card that you always have in your opening hand, like capping the game length is necessarily a good thing. That was kind of frustrating about the United and Stormwind metagame. So I'm not necessarily happy to see it back. But like if it's just gets run over by aggro like we're expecting, then like people will probably just stop playing it because I don't think it has like the same cult following that Big Priest had, because it's just been unavailable to a lot of players for so long, and nobody particularly like hung on to it even in standard when it was, you know, technically playable there, even though it was horrendously like unviable. Like it didn't have like the stickiness that a deck like Big Priest has in spite of its win rate. So hopefully the play rate drops if the win rate drops.
Yeah. I was gonna ask what your kind of like initial impression though is, like power level aside, were you happy to see it or not? And I feel like you weren't, because you kind of touched on that a little bit. You're just not happy with questline kind of design in general, right?
Yeah, it's like it's not something that I just want to have to deal with for the rest of the format, or for the rest of like playing Wild. I think that it also in playing it myself, because I did try it out day one. My build wasn't probably refined like Corp said. I don't think that there are a lot of refined builds right now, but like the dependence on Crystallizer really also just felt kind of gross, because especially now with the extra health that you have to get through, just getting through a big chunk of that for essentially free. And then on top of that, like the compounding effect with Raise Dead, if you have Crystallizers in there, is pretty gross. And then like the finishing potential of Crystallizer, I think that like the deck looks very, very different without Crystallizer right now because of how much damage it has to take.
Yeah, it really is tough, like, to complete the quest sometimes if you don't have access to the crystallizers. And like you said, it does compound because of Raise Dead. But yeah, like, are we happy to see it back? I mean, they're always going to bring it back, right? It depends, like, what capacity. So, like, was it going to be a total rework, or were they just going to do this? I think, like, I am expecting this to have been enough, I'll say. Like, unless they start piling on, like, really premium, cheap, 1-mana self-damage cards. Like, we see more Librarians, we see more Raise Dead, we see more Crystallizer type stuff. And you're getting the quest reward down on 5. Like, if the reward's coming down on 5 or 6, then that's kind of maybe getting to a bit of a problem for the future, for sure. But I think that the safe route they took here should be enough. It is also important to remember that they did throw in the Dark Pact and Hellfire buffs, like, randomly, which we weren't expecting, and that's kind of like a big deal. Like, Hellfire is a hell of a card right now as well.
Yeah, I'll also say in my experience, again, I don't know how refined my list was, like, almost all my games were won by just bashing people in the brain with a Flesh Giant. Like it was just, like, I don't know how many, like, I won fewer games off the back of, like, Tamsin self-damage shenanigans than I did off of just, like, getting people with giants. And it just, but like at the same time, a giant deck is a little bit more susceptible to, like, specifically druid removal and that type of game plan. This just kind of flips matchups, and it probably flips the Reno Priest matchup as well. Like, so even if it's not winning games, like the threat of it is still something that needs to be considered.
For sure, yeah, that's always the big thing, right? Is that, like, it's one card that doesn't really slow down your Flesh Giants, and then it's just this safety net that does completely flip matchups. Like, so that's you'd never cut it. Like, now that we have it, it's just, you'd never run normal Darkler ever.
All right. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of the evolution of the deck itself, because I know when this card originally came out that we had Giants with the Rod, and then the Giants got nerfed, and Glare got nerfed, and then we moved to like a Fatigue build, but we now don't have Cataclysm for that Fatigue build anymore. We also don't have 3-mana Rod, and so I'm wondering. I know we've kind of touched on the point where we're like kind of far away from like the refined list, and so I'm interested in, after we go, a month of the Demon Seed and Wild, kind of revisit this topic and see like how are we still feeling about it. How do we think the community's responding to it? I think I've seen like win rates of the deck, and it's just like the win rates aren't stellar. I know that's like not end all be all, because small sample size and biased sample size and all that kind of stuff as well, but it has been interesting. This was definitely the most talked about card, I think, more than like something like Conviction. I mean, for a good reason, but this was also like all I saw. Like the first like 2 days of the reworks were just people playing Demon Seed, and so I wonder how much of that is kind of impacting everything as well. I will say, I think we can all maybe agree on PSA, do not play the 3-mana 5/5, because I don't think those builds are good. I don't remember what the 3-mana 5/5 is, like the name.
Apothecary?
Yeah, the Apothecary, where you like play a minion, you take damage.
Yeah. Why are people playing that card?
Look, I thought we established that the first time we went through the
exactly.
Demon Seed
We
phase.
learned that lesson the first time around. Like, it's not going to get better. Like,
look, I have seen multiple people playing it. That's why I wanted to put out the PSA. Don't be playing the list. If you guys want a list for Dark Lair, just go net deck Corb. I think he tweeted out a list. Just go net deck the good players.
Just drop the Lothab for a Drain Soul or something. Just
yeah,
Lothab was really bad.
Lothab was. I played a Lothab too, just out of habit, because like Giants, I'm gonna play Lothab. But like, no, your Tamsin is your Lothab. Like if you're getting cleared, you're just winning with Tamsin.
Lothab was just me getting tilted by a High Legend and went full combo, just like to counter the deck, and I just couldn't cope anymore.
All right, let's talk about the other big Warlock change, and that was Stealer of Souls. So this card did get kind of like a complete rework compared to the Demon Seed. So it's back to a 4-mana 2/6. It's no longer banned. But instead of after you draw a card, it costs health instead of mana. It is the first card you draw each turn costs health instead of mana. But this combined with the whole change to how you like paying life for cost works and things like that. This card kind of just doesn't do anything insane that you want it to do in Wild, especially since you can't like play this and then tap. You have to play it and then have it survive to your turn so that you can then draw a card, right?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, like if you play it from like say the left side of your hand, the first card that you draw would still
would
apply,
it turn
right?
into like health? I don't know.
That would be
I
my
haven't
assumption
played.
based on the wording, but either way, like cheating one card is that you can't necessarily control the placement of is perfectly fine. This is a safe mana cheat card. I think we can all agree that like it's unreliable. You don't know how much you're going to get out of it, and that's fine. Just this is what the card should have existed as when it was released, and it would have been fine.
Safe mana cheat, aka bad mana cheat. All right, let's talk about some warrior cards. Fiery War Axe, Fiery Wind Axe, finally back to 2 mana. It's back. Nostalgia, all that good stuff.
Warrior is saved.
Warrior is indeed. I saw multiple devs tweeting out about Warrior after these reverts. Fiery War Axe at 2 mana. Does it save Warrior in Wild?
It might save Warrior in Arena. I don't know how it's doing there. I don't like. Where do you play this?
That's my point.
I played it in non-quest Pirate Warrior, and it almost felt like a Hearthstone deck.
Okay,
That's high praise.
getting closer.
I mean, the card's pretty good. Like, it actually holds
Yeah.
up, like, really well. It's just, like you said, does this save Warrior? No. Like, it's unsynergistic weapon. Like, you put it in a weapon deck that goes face, or where you just need it as early removal for something. But I
Right.
don't know where exactly.
Okay.
Because it's like,
Yeah.
like, if you're doing imbued axe stuff, it's like, you're not playing 4 weapons and things like that. So it's just hard for it to make a big difference, even if the card is actually, like, really quite good.
Right. And Wild is a format where a singular high-powered card doesn't do enough, right? Like the format is completely centered around like an abundance of highly synergistic cards working together with one another. This doesn't work with anything. It's good on its own. That's cool. Years ago that was enough to win games of Hearthstone. Right now, like in Wild in particular, you need to think about how does this interact with the rest of my deck, and it doesn't. Like, is the unfortunate reality. So, like, it's just not enough. But I'm glad they did it. People are happy. I don't care.
Yeah. I'm glad you get to call it like Fiery Wind X now and 2 mana. I mean, maybe you play in your Even Warrior. Maybe it's good enough for that deck.
Yep.
You're what now?
Hey, you play Even Warrior. Don't give me that.
No, I know you've played that at some point.
Many times, but yes, this does not save it because it's no Bladed Gauntlet.
All right. The other warrior card here, though, is Warsong Commander, another nostalgia revert. Back to its OG form. Whenever you summon a minion with 3 or less attack, give it charge. Frothing Berserker, Worgen Warrior, whatever you want to give charge, except for patrons, because that is still bad, because that is a 5-mana card in 2023. But if you want to play like Worgen OTK Warrior, if you want to play Frothing in like an Enraged Warrior deck, okay, the first like 2 days that we had this card, it didn't actually work properly with copy effects, but that bug has been fixed. You actually get to do some sweet stuff with it. This card, I don't know if it's going to make the decks good, but it brings back fun decks, which I think I'm okay with.
Yeah. No, this is a perfectly fine revert. It's one that people have been asking for a while. This is the one that, out of all of like the old ones, this is the one that makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, this is safe, most likely. I don't think like an 8-mana combo with a patron is not it's modern Wild, right? Like, don't even bring up to the front to me because you're talking nonsense at this point. So yeah, it's a perfectly safe one. It's one that people have fond memories of. It's been memed on to oblivion. Sure, yeah, bring it back. It makes sense to me, and people can have fun with it.
Yeah, I've been rooting for this one for like 2 years now. Like every Reaver period, I've been like, come on, they're gonna do it this time. So yeah, I don't know. It pushes decks that I find pretty interesting and fun, like skipper decks and things like that. So that's cool. And I don't think it's gonna be very great in the short run. Like I think Warriors is kind of not it right now. Shocker. But I'm happy that it's in the toolkit, and hopefully there is like a fun skipper deck at some point. If this is ever really good though, you're gonna start hearing complaints if people start dying on turn 5. But we'll see.
I think people vastly underestimate just how much like a large portion of the player base hated losing to Patron Warrior. There's a reason it was nerfed. Like everybody looks back on it fondly, but like
it wasn't win rate. Like it
right.
was not nerf for win rate.
Nope. Nope. Everybody looks back on it fondly and memes on Warsong Commander, but they were probably first in line to like complain about like losing to the deck. So it's just like the reality is that people just don't like powerful things when they happen to them. And so no matter any deck that has been strong in the history of Hearthstone has been complained about. There is no like safe pure deck that everybody loved. It's just not going to be the case.
Except Highlander Hunter. That one got through
nope.
Well,
nope. You have not read my YouTube comments. Like it doesn't matter what the deck is. There, as many people like that there are that champion it. There's probably an equal amount, if not greater number of people that think that it's toxic and shouldn't exist if it's winning games of Hearthstone.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it's been a very long time since we've complained about a warrior deck, though. And so if that happens, then, hey, look, at least we're complaining about a warrior deck, and that means a warrior deck is good, right? And
I'm sorry, it's been a long time since you've complained about a warrior deck. You don't know me. You don't know my life. I still rage at the Juggernaut. Don't you dare.
Look, that was like 2 years ago, Roffle, all right? It's been a while in terms of Wild Hearthstone time length, okay? Come on.
I still get flashbacks. I don't care.
Just wake up in the middle of the night with sweats from the Juggernaut. Oh gosh. All right, let's move on to the neutrals here. Watch Post got reverted. Just not the Watch Posts that you might be thinking of. It's the 3-mana bad Watch Post that makes 2/2s whenever your opponent plays minion. Let's move on to Ice Revenant. This is the card that they preemptively nerfed for standard because they were scared of what it was going to do in Frost Decay. Maybe rightly so, because Frost Decay was kind of busted. Now we get to do the maybe busted things in our format. Maybe you might have to rebuild the Frost Death Knights to play more spells, because I think they were only playing like 5 or 6. But I don't know. I'm gonna play it and see if it like they were right to be scared. You know.
All right, report back.
I will.
And I don't think you need to change the build too much in even, because like even if you're not running that many spells, you don't need that many for it to be a big pop off. All you need to do is like play this on 4, play the refresh, and then play like the deal 3, and all of a sudden it's an 8/9. So and you are pretty consistently getting that stuff because you do have the Harbinger. So I don't think you need to change the build. I don't think you need to run like a whole bunch of terrible Frost guards. I don't know, maybe it's good. Like an 8/9 on 4 for a deck like even Death Knight, like that's pretty strong.
Oh, we're running it in the even version.
Yeah.
Okay.
All Death Knight decks and Wild are even. Come on, Roffle.
Now maybe we're talking my language. Yeah, the thing is, like, I'm not going to play this because it doesn't gain a new card from the expansion. So, like, maybe down the line in the future, I'll give it a shot. But like right now,
we'll put it right after the questline mage Roffle in the queue.
Yeah, exactly. When I need an idea, like we'll brush off the old Ice Revenant. You can pack so many frost spells in this bad boy. But that's a future Roffle issue.
All right. The last 2 neutral ones are also a little bit boring. Faceless Corruptor, back to a 5/4 instead of a 4/4. This was the 5-mana rush. Battlecry, transform one of your minions into a copy of this. Another one of those older cards that they revisited. Doesn't make a difference because it's not going to see any play. And then the last one.
This one was just outright bizarre to me. Like, nobody missed this card.
I don't think many people even knew that this card existed. But the last one is Goldshire Knoll. This is the even lock card or the hand mage card, whatever, depends on your perspective, right? That got nerfed to 11 because of the evolve shenanigans in standard, back to 10, meaning even lock is playable again. And that's going to wrap it up for the reversions. Also, kind of a side note, Pandaren Importer is also technically getting reverted, but it's not happening until the expansion goes live because that card's still in standard, and they didn't want to do any shenanigans with spells and stuff. And that's going back to, I believe, a 2-mana 1/3. So maybe that's also something you look at in those even Death Knight decks, because you still kind of have a relatively small pool. That maybe you can try to use and get like Frostbrim's Fury or things like that. But yeah, initial impressions, right? Kind of the big ones to talk about, like Demon Seed, Dark Pact, Conviction, are kind of like the big ones, right? And then maybe to a little bit of a lesser extent, Level Up in Cold Blood are the cards that, you know, people are talking about the most, probably playing the most.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty accurate assessment. I think that not even just playing the most, because I haven't seen a Conviction at all. So I like, people are allergic to playing Paladin, it seems like, no matter what. So I think that's maybe arguably the strongest one that got reverted, though. So like, test out Paladin, do something, like see how it works. I think that one's a little bit spooky for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not just about what reverts they did do, but it's also about which ones they avoided. Like, I think generally what you saw was they did want to go back and touch all the cards that kind of missed their opportunity. So getting a chance to revisit. That probably means that there probably aren't like that many old ones that they're ever going to do again, because it seemed like they were pretty liberal with which ones they were willing to hit this time or willing to buff back up. So if it didn't make it this time, probably just not going to ever make it again, feels like. But yeah, like the general direction was like aggro cards are fine to revert. Aggro cards are fine. Some of the late game stuff was mostly okay. Like the quest lines, like Demon Hunter and things like that. Like Demon Hunter, they ended up doing the Shaman one, but they did tend to avoid cards that could be like considered late game or getting a win condition online early. So they didn't do things like Kazaka-san. They didn't do Defend the Dwarven District. They didn't do Celestial Alignment. They didn't do Metal Rod. They didn't do Perpetual Flame, which can do a lot of damage with like Overdraft or help like rip through the quest and things like that. They didn't even do like Spring Water, which was a bit bizarre to me. But yeah, that seemed to be the general direction. They didn't do a lot of the hero cards as well, and they didn't do. Did I say Director? So yeah, they were willing to do Conviction and Cold Blood, but then not do like Kazaka-san, and that's sort of a little strange to me. I don't know if that's just because of the power of nostalgia and just like willing to do cards that were nerfed like years and years ago. But it definitely it definitely just continues pushing Wild into this like very aggro-y format. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting, like broad picture wise, like what they ended up doing.
Yeah, I think Kazaka-san was like, if we're gonna talk about the cards that weren't changed, Kazaka-san was maybe the most baffling to me that we didn't get changed. I know, because I know people, I keep getting hit with but like, yeah, the soul of the card, the dragons, like things like that. You can still play Kazaka-san if that was the case, right? If they changed it, if you wanted to follow the essence of the card or the soul of the card. But the fact that it like promoted, something that wasn't an aggressive deck, which is like a lot of the things that they reverted this time around, and it was also a very fun card that was kind of on power level, just made a lot of sense to me. And in that same vein, like, I know, like, we got the questline Shaman Revert, but we didn't get like Perpetual Flame, right? And maybe that was because of the weapon or the overload stuff from this set. But we also didn't like see a lot of the hero cards like Scabs or Cariel, like Corb mentioned. It was just a little bit weird that a lot of the cards that we did see were more on the aggressive side when the format's already in like a super aggressive spot, which was a little bit weird, but I also kind of understood. But also kind of complete 180. F's in the comments for Mogu Flesh Shaper. He's never going back.
But again, like I don't think you should. Like I think that's the kind of thing that they're avoiding, right? Like early huge power swings and things like that, like win the game on turn 3 and 4. Like they tended to just like not even give that a look, which is good. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like Cold Blood and Conviction can kind of end games like very, very quickly, just in a very different way. So yeah. I don't know. Is there anything that like you're really shocked by that they didn't touch? Is it besides Kazaka-san apparently?
I think Kazaka-san was like the big one for me. I was a little bit shocked by the ones that they did revert, but aka Conviction. But like I was looking through, I don't think that they like missed any like should have reverted that they didn't outside of Kazaka-san, personally.
Springwater was sort of like a bit bizarre.
Yeah, I feel like that was a low risk one. I think that, I mean, at the end of the day, you're never going to agree with, or nobody's ever going to 100% agree with everything. Somebody's going to be left disappointed. From a gameplay perspective, I'm on your side, Meowth, but like a lot, the thematic aspect of the card matters a lot to a lot of people, where like illogical or not, like it makes them viscerally angry that they're losing to a dragon payoff card that like just because the opponent didn't have any minions in their deck. Like that people find that really upsetting for whatever reason. I think that like I personally would have just said, you know what, I don't care. I prefer that Kazaka-san comes back, but I think because it was probably the way it is now, a little bit longer than it was like initially, like it doesn't have the nostalgia tie-in to like override that type of thing. So I think that's probably a big part of it as well. But I think it probably would have, the question I always ask is it better for the format? And I think with Kazaka-san, yeah, maybe. I think it probably was. But to have it like, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Overall, I think fairly spicy reversion season. But I'm also like pretty happy with a lot of the stuff that we got. Like we got back Warsong Commander and things like that. Like that's already kind of a win for the season. All right, let's kind of completely pivot. We're an hour in. Let's spend the last little part of our episode this week talking about the new expansion. It's coming out April 11th in just a few days. So at this point, we've kind of had the full set for about a week. I know we've done some theory crafting. People like have been talking a lot about what decks they think are going to be powerful. I know Roffle got to play in the theory crafting stream, play some standard. and things like that. So I kind of want to just like open the floor. Now that we've kind of had a week to digest all of the cards, like what are the decks, the archetypes that you're kind of looking forward to playing the most in Wild? I know, Roffle, you played a lot of Standard, but I don't know if you've had some time to think about like what your first couple of decks are going to be in Wild.
Yeah, I know what my first deck is going to be, and it's going to be Tony Rogue. And I'm going to make people hate the card with Myra's Unstable Element, and probably lose a lot of games, but have a lot of fun. I think the hero power stuff, it looks interesting. Um, like my build was very unsuccessful, unfortunately, but like a lot of people, I lost the mirror almost exclusively when I was trying to play the deck for about an hour, and all I did was lose the mirror. So like there's definitely something there. I think spread the word in particular is looking pretty good. And like the outcast stuff in Demon Hunter alongside the rush cards. I was maybe sleeping on Snakebite, but like I just needed to include an extra copy of a like new card for the deck, and that card vastly overperformed in conjunction with like Rush the Stage is just a bonkers card. Like it's unbelievably good, and is going to be good in Wild as well. I think that the difficulty is going to be figuring out what cards to cut from Outcast Demon Hunter right now, because it has so many good options, and like paring that down into the perfect 30 is going to take a little bit of time.
Corb, what about you? What are you excited to play?
Oh, probably like Outcast DH and Garrote Rogue. Seem like the biggest things that I want to be trying early on. I'll probably try like the Ramp Druid thing, which I'm not really like thrilled about that, but I you know, you gotta get a feel for just how good Twig Sphere is on turn 4. You know, no one's ever done that before, so gotta try and figure that stuff out. Questline Druid as well is something that might feel a lot more like smooth now that we have Harmonic Mood and Spread the Word, so that could be quite good as well. Ignite Mage. What about you, Meowth? What are you planning on trying with the
I'm
expansion?
planning on trying to find a new co-host if you keep peddling this Ignite Mage, okay? I think the Outcast DH is the one that I'm the most excited for, because I did get to sneak into the Theorycraft stream for a little bit, and played some Standard. The new cards between Rush the Stage and the Weapon are just they're good, and that deck is already like super fun to play, but I know outside of that, like I feel like a lot of the decks that I'm excited to try aren't like new. I know we talked about this when Corb and I were doing some theory crafting together, but it seems like a lot of like the super powerful cards of the set aren't exactly ones that you can like define and build new decks on. They kind of slot into existing archetypes, which is like it's perfectly fine, right? Like that's a good thing. That means a lot of cards are probably going to see play. It's just not going to be like any brand new powerful decks, which is I think is okay. I don't know if that's like I've seen some people kind of like crapping on the expansion because of that, but I think I'm super hype. I think there's going to be a lot of like sweet cards that are going to see play. But I think Outcast Demon Hunter is probably going to take the cake for me for my first deck.
Yeah, set 1 tends to be a little bit lower power level as well. That's not necessarily always the case, because there have been certain outliers, especially in recent history, but like that is often the trend because again they're balancing around a standard rotation. But yeah, I don't see like any one thing that stands out that's like a brand new deck, but like we could absolutely be missing that. So we'll see. I think some of the overheal stuff in Priest looks good, and you can always just take Corb's old strategy of look to see what's broken in Standard, port that over to Wild, after a few days, and see if it works there as well. So like, we'll have to see. Like, we didn't get like a true sampling of the cards because you're so artificially inflating the number of Festival of Legend cards that are required for your deck, and we didn't get like their crafting event for Wild. So people have said that very same thing about an expansion before, and then it caught us by surprise. So it's really hard to evaluate cards without actually getting your hands on them and playing them.
I will say that Wild, with some of the new things that are going on, there are a lot of decks that generate very, very, very big boards on turn 4. So I think Wild, I don't know, like I don't think we're gonna get a ton of new decks. I think Wild might feel a little bit silly with the Twig Sphere stuff going on with like huge boards on turn 4 and just like even showing Pirate Rogue, Shadow Priest going faced. We'll have to wait and see. I'm hoping the Garrote Rogue's really good. That's kind of like my new deck, but like a deck like Outcast EH, I expect that to be like firm tier 1, like really easy to tier 1.
Yeah, I think that given the abundance of tools that it's been given in standard, some of the cards could end up getting toned down if they end up being, because I could very well see them being outliers in the format, just because because it's very strong.
Not me trying to think of like an outlier / outcast joke there in terms of power level and really failing, and so therefore we're gonna move on. But yeah, don't say that. Don't nerf more standard cards, please. I would also like to say, like, I think the mage decks, like, I know I keep giving you crap about Ignite Mage, but the more I like look at that Ignite Mage and then like the Hostage Turtle Mage, the more scared I am of those decks. I'm like really hoping that those aren't good, because the more I look at them, the better they look, which is kind of scary. And so if they end up good, you guys can all blame Corb and hate him, because that's what I'll be doing. Yeah, I also really hope that the Overheal stuff will be good in Wild, because I think that Overheal rework has been like super sweet in terms of like how it plays in Standard. And I'm hoping that ports at least somewhat into Wild. And by port, I mean I hope it's just not Crimson Clergy and draw your whole deck on turn 3 and dump out Giants, even though that's probably what's going to be the case. So that's kind of our impression of the expansion. So to wrap up, I know we've been talking about the new expansion for like 4 weeks at this point, but we got to wrap it up. We got to do our traditional predictions, so that we can come back to them in a couple weeks, and people always have something to note when we overhype a card like Deck of Chaos and then it ends up being bad. So what do you guys want to start with? You guys want to start with favorites and then kind of wrap up with powerful? We good with that?
Sure, let's go.
All right. So who wants to go first with their 5 favorite cards from the set?
I'll go. I think that the personal favorite so far has been Banjo-Zor. Like, especially when a friend of the stream very generously dirty rats them out, so you pay 0 mana for them. The entrance sound is just fantastic. He plays you a little tune on his banjo and then bashes you in the face. It's great. It's a really fun, satisfying card to play. I don't care how bad it is. He's a goofy boy, and I love him. Next 2 cards are going to have a bit of a theme. Mixtape. I love the idea of like actually having a reasonable burgle card that gives you like a card that somebody put on in their deck on purpose. Feels good. You have a little bit more control over what you get out of it, a little bit more agency, so it's not just like up in the air weirdness going on. You can just like actually like pick a card for the right situation that theoretically works with your test. Similarly, I like the concept of Hipster, which is the neutral 2 mana like Pandarian importer, but for your opponent's deck, so you can get like a little bit more control over again the card that you're discovering burgling, and it's just fun. I don't care. I like getting cards from other classes. That's one of my favorite things to do. Up next, Kangor Dancing King. I got absolutely obliterated by Kibler running this card. It just like seemed to hard carry. Probably way too slow for Wild, but a lot of fun. Like in the past, you had to run like that blatant decoy or some other nonsense that you never really want to include in your deck, just because like Big Paladin didn't really have a way to get like its big minions out of hand if you accidentally drew them. Whereas now Kangor kind of gives you a little bit of recursion available with that. And nobody's actually running Silence right now, so don't worry about it. And then one of my favorites of the set is Symphony of Sins. I don't necessarily think this is a terribly strong card, but it's a lot of fun to play, man. Like, doing things like using Finley, or maybe even, dare I say, Plot Twist, which is one of my least favorite cards in Hearthstone history because it's frequently demanded that I play. Like getting a new hand after you shuffle feels really good into something like a Symphony of Sins, and it's just kind of a fun card, like a nice feeling toolkit card that does a lot of things for unfortunately a lot of mana.
I like those choices. The Banjo Soar, I don't know who ratted it, but very generous and kind of that person.
Yeah,
also,
somebody should subscribe to their YouTube channel for sure.
Yeah. We'll never know who it is though.
Didn't say that. He is a good boy though. The art on that card is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. It also, for some reason I didn't think he was gonna like gain the stats before he actually hit whatever he was hitting. When you read the card, it makes sense. But that actually makes him a lot better than I thought he was. So I'm sorry, Banjo Soar, if I talked crap when we originally
reviewed it, but I think a lot of times our brains default to just like an after type effect with card text. So yeah, that's part of the reason why you can't like accurately evaluate cards, is like sometimes you just don't get the full mechanics of them. I still don't think it's a good card because it costs 10 mana, but like there are a lot more ways to cheat them out in Wild than there are in Standard, so it's fun.
That's true. There's a lot of dirty rats in Wild.
All right, Core, what about your 5 favorite?
All right, 5 favorite. I had Record Scratcher. I'm so all in on this Garrote Rogue, man. Like, chips are in the middle of the table. I'm all in. God, I hope it's good. But yeah, it seems like it's fun. So my type of deck, my type of thing. Next up, I had Party Animal. I really like Party Animal. I hope it kind of ties together some of these archetypes that have kind of just been wandering around a bit like aimlessly for many, many years at this point. So whether it's Menagerie Warrior, or maybe even like Menagerie Hunter, or like, I don't know, maybe this is something cool we can do with that. But I like it. It kind of helps push multiple decks at once as a neutral. Exciting. Next up, I had Mr. Mukla. He's just a big boy. He's just a good boy. He's so many stats for just 6 mana. So strong. So I really like him. I think he's cool. I think he's very flavorful as well. He's just huge, and I'm looking forward to playing him in Beast Hunter. I had a bunch of bananas while we're keeping on the Hunter Banana theme. This kind of seems like very simple, but like, I don't know, it just seems cool to me. Like, I like the different synergies that it opens up with just one card. I was always a big Extra Arms fan, and this is kind of like Extra Arms if you squint. So I like this. And last one I had was Symphony of Sins, which Roffle already talked about. Just very, very cool. Like, probably just like one of the more flashy, exciting big legendaries that we got. And yeah, I actually think it'll be quite strong. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. I really like this card.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just continue that. Like, Symphony of Sins is in my top 5 favorite. It's going to be like Insta Goldencraft for me. Like, I think the card is very sweet. It's going to be very fun. I'm not as sold as Corb on it being good, but I'm going to play it nonstop in every Warlock deck that I can because it is sweet. And the effects are super flashy. I also had Mr. Mukla on my 5 favorites. He's not a lot of stats for 6 mana. He's a lot of stats for 4 mana because you always hit him off the Harpoon Gun and insta-curve him on turn 4. And your opponents totally can't kill it. I had One Amalgam Band in my 5 favorites. Kind of a similar theme to what you said for like Party Animal. Of like, I just think the Menagerie stuff is sweet, even if they're not very cool. And this is kind of like the epitome of like the Menagerie card. Just play a bunch of tribes, and then you get this huge payoff. Plus, Matt said that it was going to be good, and if it's good, it must be fun, right? So there we go. My next favorite I had was Glavetar for the Outcast Demon Hunter. I was playing this card in Standard, and I got it up to drawing me 12 cards in the span of 2 turns. And that's kind of insane, kind of fun. And if it makes Outcast Demon Hunter like a tier 1 deck, I'm going to play the crap out of it because it is a lot of fun to play. So even if that's a little bit of overlap between favorite and powerful, I'm okay with that. And then my last one's a little bit of a meme pick here, but I'm going to go with Annoying Fan as my last card here, just because of the memes of whenever this gets randomly generated or something, you get to make fun of Twitch chat or YouTube comments, right? Of, you just always will get to do it. and it's just like one of the most flavorful cards, I feel like, out of the set that's full of flavorful cards, and it's cute and I like it, and I know it's bad, and that's why it's here in my 5 favorites. Yeah. All right. Now let's get on to the ones where we really get judged. Let's talk about our predictions for the 5 most powerful cards of the set. So, Roffle, we're circling back around to you. What are your 5 most powerful cards from the set?
All right, this is going to be one that nobody has thought of, but Instrument Tech, I feel like, has the potential to make an impact in Wild. I'm just going to throw that out there. Hot take, I know.
Do we need to tutor Dragon Soul though, Roffle? Like, is that?
Well, yeah, because of the Crimson Clergy got the change, so you need to needed to make sure that you draw it, otherwise you have no win condition with that deck.
Okay, I'm now on board. All right.
Okay. I don't think we've talked enough about instruments. I think so. We'll just move on to. I actually had Glavetar on my list. Like Meowth, I played this in standard, and there's like legitimately situations where I had to pump the brakes. I'm like, whoa, this is too much card draw.
Like, see, I thought that, and then I proceeded to not touch the brakes and kept going.
Oh, I did that too. There were many cards burned as the result of Glavetar, to the point where somebody in my chat suggested that it needs to be cut because it's drawing me too many cards, and I just said that is not a real problem in real life in a card game. So we moved on from that quickly. But the card's nuts. It's very good. It also, I don't know if you know this, it does 8 damage in a fairly aggressive deck. Like, that's relevant amounts of damage. Sure. Next up, I also had Rush the Stage. This card is absolutely outrageous in that same deck. It fetches your Fierce Outriders. It fetches your Wallopers. And, if you're running Snakebite with the security, it also fetches that, which, again, Snakebite overperformed my expectations. Like a 1-mana Snakebite is pretty good if you have tokens dying that turn. So, this card does everything that you want in that deck. Why does it need to reduce the cost? I guess is my question. Like, that seems excessive. You're paying 1 mana, draw 2. Why?
That doesn't seem good enough. We should make it 0 mana, draw 2. Yeah.
So speaking of, great segue. My next card is Spread the Word. I think that Questline Druid has been fringe playable at certain points just because gain armor, go face beats aggro pretty well if they don't have any taunts. Now with Rake and Savagery, or at least the potential to run both of those, you probably cut the Savagery at this point, but you have ways to get through taunts, and you have a lot of very strong cards in the deck, including Spread the Word. I think if that deck starts to take off, it's almost certainly off the back of this. And then the last one is the one that I'm least sure about, just because I don't know how strong the deck is going to be. But Mic Drop seems really, really nutty in Kingsbane Rogue. Again, you're basically getting Deadly Poison and draw 2 on the same card, and that seems very, very strong for what it does everything that the deck wants to do. It buffs the weapon and it draws you cards. So if Kingsbane maybe has the potential to come back as a heavily spell-based deck, rather with the additional weapon tutor, maybe you don't run as many pirates since you don't need the raiding party, and you just go hard on the spell buffs and just basically play the same game plan as Questline Druid, but faster.
It's a good top 5, Ruffle. I was worried we were gonna have the exact same. You went through all the cards there, and I was like, am I just gonna have to say it was the exact same? Because I had Instrument Tech. Where's that list? Instrument Tech, Rush the Stage, Spread the Word, Glavetar, Love Everlasting. That was the difference. Love Everlasting. I'm always thinking about Big Priest, even if Ruffle's not. So that's the difference. I mean, play it on 3, get Essence on 4. Sure. Yeah, that's a Hearthstone card.
That one's, that I feel kind of foolish leaving that one off. I had a mental block looking through the cards, and I didn't think about Big Priest.
That's okay. I try to not think about it as well. But yeah, I mean, like, I think harmonic mood is sort of just the same as spread the word, like whatever they're together. That was like another honorable mention. But apart from that, I think that's pretty much the same thing. So yeah, there you go. Meowth, you got anything spicy?
I was gonna say there might be a little bit of overlap with my list too. I had Instrument Tech, I had Rush the Stage, and I had Spread the Word. I think we can confidently say that these cards are very good. I also had Love Everlasting because just like Corb, I too love Big Priest and can't get it off my mind. And then my last card, I was gonna put Glavetar here, but because I put it in my favorites, I like really wanted to find something else. So I ended up going with Volume Up as my last card in the top 5, just because it's 4 mana draw 4. And then because you get to discover, you get to do some gross stuff potentially with Ramath or whatever his name is, and in Mage. And like I said, dude, you've got me scared for these 2 Mage decks. I'm really hoping they're not actually good, but you've scared me good enough that I put Volume Up in my top 5 powerful. So, but yeah, I think we can agree that Instrument Attack, Rush the Stage, and Spread the Word are going to be very powerful cards because drawing cards good, and all 3 of those cards do that. So yeah, if you're looking for the cards to craft because you're not going to open any packs, I think any of the cards on this list you probably can't go wrong with. But yeah, all right. Last words about the expansion. How we feeling? It's coming out in 2 or 3 days.
You know, to be honest with you, after the timing of the announcement of the wild changes is kind of throwing me off. I feel like everything leading up to that point is less important than what's announced in phase 2 in terms of what they're doing with the wild format. So admittedly, like, I'm not as excited for this expansion as I have been for others, just because like there's this air of uncertainty in terms of like, well, what is the change? Like, so yeah, like there's a lot that is kind of up in the air with our format right now. So that's kind of where my hesitation is. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings. Like, which is a bummer because the set's cool. It's really thematic. The art and design of this are just incredible, and like some of the animations, the effects team really did a lot of great things with this, and I would love to be excited about it, but like I'm just like, I don't know what the future of our format is has in store for it. So that's where my head is right now.
True. This is kind of like just a very I don't know, this is like a mini set for Roffle. It's like like we're halfway through and we're getting to the really big stuff later, I guess, like this little speed bump, and then we get kind of like a much bigger dramatic change later.
Yeah, these are your appetizers for the main course.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know, the expansion, like, I expect it to be pretty rough the first 2 weeks. I'll be real, like, I'm not gonna BS. Like, I expect instrument tech stuff to be very silly. Like I said, there's a lot of like really gross things going on in Wild right now. I'm very hopeful the decks that I am eager to play are going to be competitive. I expect Outcast DH to be really fun, so I am looking forward to that. But yeah, generally, like, I am curious about the long-term stuff even more than the expansion right now. I actually think I'm going to be playing like quite a lot of Standard. Standard looks really cool. So we'll see how that goes as well. But while traditionally, we're at a 50-50 shot most times of needing an emergency patch, and we'll have to wait and see. Like, it's a very good chance that we will need one, like after 2 weeks or something.
Can you even call it 50-50 if it's like the past 3 or 4 expansions we have needed one? And
I feel like it's not that often.
It was Kael'thas and Switcheroo into I don't remember what it was for the middle expansion, but I remember us wanting a patch.
We got a big rogue change, didn't we?
Yeah, the big rogues. Yeah, and then we had the
we had big shaman.
One of the big decks, and then I think it was like Big Shaman for like the mini set, and then it was like Big Rogue for the new set, and then we had the Discard Warlock stuff from the last set. So like it has happened for like the past year. Here's to hoping we don't need one, but I'm a little bit scared about Instrument Tech. We'll see. Maybe it won't be as consistent as we're thinking it'll be.
Oh no, it'll be consistent. The question is like whether the deck will be strong enough.
Oh, don't say that. But yeah, I also just very excited. Like the set looks super sweet. The cards look super sweet. I think people are gonna be a little bit less excited in Wild because no brand new decks, like we were talking about like at the beginning of this whole conversation.
Yeah.
I think that it's gonna like bring the general mood down, but I think there are a lot of like super sweet cards. There are gonna be a lot of impactful cards, and I'm happy. Like I think the set is good, especially for a first set of the year, which is not something we normally say. Which, yeah, I'm trying to bring the mood back up. You know, we're dwelling on the instrument tech, but the rest of the stuff I think is actually pretty sweet. But yeah, as we wrap things up, do for all of you guys that stuck around to the end, you guys get the special sneak. We do have some bundles to give away for the new expansion, courtesy of Blizzard. So if you guys are hyped for the stuff and you guys want to play cards, thanks to Blizzard, we got some stuff to give away. You got to just click the link down in the description. Just give us a little bit of information, and you'll get your stuff. We'll announce winners Tuesday morning before the expansion. So thanks again to Blizzard for that, and thanks again for everybody that listens all the way to the end. And thanks again to Corbin and Roffle for joining me. Preview season's done. It's been a month of really, really long episodes, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Let the people know where they can find you guys and your new expansion content.
Yeah, you can find me streaming on both Twitch and YouTube at Roffle with daily uploads over on YouTube.
And you can also find me at Corbett on Twitch or Corbettgames on Twitter and YouTube.
You guys can find me at Get Me Off on all those platforms. Thanks again to everybody that listens all the way to the end of these episodes. Appreciate you guys, and we hope you guys enjoy the brand new expansion. Later.